This is Good Noticing.
Ashley, how was your weekend? Happy Easter. Do you feel re-risen?
Yeah, I do feel reborn. I feel fresh. I feel ready to take on God's next challenges.
I don't. For one, I was reborn already once this year, and it was that Wii spot in Los Angeles. I'm just like a dingy version of my old reborn self.
I used my scrubber that they gave me. Not for Jesus purposes, but like for just recently I said, they scraped me down. I'm going to stay script.
I said this is a professional only. I really treated it. I was like, well, I just don't have, like, it's a biohazard if I do it at home in my bathroom.
Imagine leaving your own skin in your own bathroom, ready for anyone to come in. Anyone frogging you can come scoop it up and make a Claire clone. Yeah, right.
Imagine I was getting frogged by myself. Imagine I go, who's been living here? And it's a little me made up of tiny little skins and my old hair.
Well, waddling around the bathroom, just scooping up more skin until they can grow into full Claire size.
You know, and I've shed.
I know.
It's doable.
I've seen it. I've seen the hairs falling out of your head going to little Claire.
You know how people use like scalp serum? What if I just used glue? What if just like, this is my scalp treatment. Every day I put a little bit of Elmer's in there and I just rub it in, keep their hairs.
What if you were going through your shower and picking out the hairs and gluing them each back on one by one? That's extensions.
What if I go, oh, no, thank you. I brought my own. I brought my own bundles. It's authentic, color treated, Jersey grown hair. Ugh, yuck.
I thought you said you guys have good water.
I wasn't yucking like the water that had washed my hair as a baby. That's not what I was saying yuck to in that scenario.
I thought this was the best hair you could grow.
Anyway, Ashley, do you have any recommendations that came to you this last week?
Yes, I do. Oh, I started watching a show called DTF St. Louis.
Okay, with Jason Bateman.
I really feel
the hater of the unchilded.
Yeah, I think they canceled Jason Bateman. They canceled David Harbour.
Oh my God. Maybe it was a thing he was doing to match his buddy.
Yeah, maybe.
He said, listen, buddy, I'm not going to cheat on my wife, but I could ask Charlie XCX why she won't have a baby.
Yeah, I'm not gonna trick my wife into an open relationship in our weird dark bedroom, but I will make everyone mad at me because of what I said to Charlie XCX. God, that podcast still pisses me off. Anyway, that being said, I think the show is really good. I have a hard time generally with those shows that are just like everyone's odd. And I think this is a really good version of it.
There's some normal, what does that mean?
I mean, everyone's odd, but not in a way that is like too overblown and feels unrealistic. There's like a sincerity and a groundedness to it. And so it makes it fun to watch, I think.
Okay. Well, this is an opinions-based podcast.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's enjoyable to watch. If you disagree with me, that's fine. That's your opinion.
It's my opinion. You don't even know those ladies. Real Housewives of OCOGs.
I have TikTok. I want to recommend. Okay. I obviously have only been working on the knitting pattern I've been working on, the Lakes V-neck pullover by Ozetta. But I did see before I chose this pattern when I was like deep in knitting TikTok that she is like a good pattern writer because her patterns are very clear and like reasonable for beginners. I think this is definitely a hard pattern for me, at least as a newbie, but it was easy to read because I'm on the sleeves now and I feel like I'm in the final stretch. I feel like, what could go wrong at this point? But I also have been, snooping around looking for my next project because I'm closing in on this one. People are dead right. This was a very clearly written pattern. And I think if I hadn't done a pattern by such a like clear pattern writer first, I feel like I understand a lot more of what I'm looking at in other patterns now. And I would have been gobsmacked by them before. I feel like there's a lot of controversy on TikTok about these like big pattern writers. It's kind of like with anything when someone becomes like commercially successful, everyone's like, yeah, right, you want the underdogs. And it's like, well, this person became very successful because these patterns are really easy to read and they make really nice looking sweaters. And I feel like going with a big pattern for your first tries, like people, I don't know, I think to try to go off the beaten path, you're really setting yourself up for danger. So I really recommend Ozetta patterns generally, I think, but also the Lakes V-neck is the one I'm working on right now, and I really like it.
I saw Ashley's sweater that she's been working on recently, and it endeared me so to her that I accidentally called her Honey. I don't know what to do. See, I was just so proud of you, and it was such a sweet, tender thing to have done, and it was so like quaint. I was just like, oh my God, honey. And it was like disgusting.
Yeah, we had to go our separate ways.
We're recording from different rooms now. We've broken up friendship-wise. It went against our rules as friends to be kind. We're not allowed.
I think we can be kind, just not fluffy. Okay, and I also want to recommend quiche.
Oh, what kind?
I had yesterday.
This bitch, she does one Easter. She comes back. She goes, you ever heard about quiche? Is that what happened?
Can I say I've actually been to 2 Easters before in my life?
And the last time you went, you ever heard about lamb?
Ham.
Ham.
I had never had ham before. And I said, wow, that is some good stuff. Watching someone carve a ham, I was like, what are we at the Grinch? This is crazy. I've never seen anything like it. I had a really great quiche. I definitely tasted some broccoli in it. I think it was like broccoli cheddar, I would guess.
Yeah, and what was like the mouthfeel?
It had a really good crust. I love a good crust. I saw a recipe. I was looking for recipes, and I saw a recipe for crustless quiche, and I said, so egg? That's just
like omelet.
Yeah. What's crustless? Like, it's just an omelet. I want the crust.
Do you know my experience with quiche?
What?
I had a roommate at one point who was like half French, and she was a really good cook. And one time I think my mom and my dad over maybe for Mother's Day or her birthday or something, and I had them over, and she taught me to make this quiche. And the trick to true French quiche is it's like more cream than you'd realize. It's like fewer eggs, more cream than you'd realize. Like you really are just eating like almost a custard of sorts. You know what I mean? And that was like she's like, this is the trick. And she did it all by vibes and feels and intuition. And she's just like, yeah, about this much, and that should whisk and be fine. And then a few months later, I tried to do another brunch. And I invited my mom, and I might have invited like my boyfriend at the time's mother. Like it was, I don't know. I tried to have people over, and I found out that actually she had not
vibes-based quiche for your boyfriend's mother. That's tough stuff.
It turned out she had not taught me to make quiche. She had just made quiche while I was in the room. And I think I put like 1 egg and like 2 quarts of heavy cream. And I just kept putting it back in the oven and taking it out and being like, it's still all wet. And I was like, let's just keep. We cooked that thing for 2-3 hours. I was like, no matter what I do, it seems to just be a pile of wet. They kept being like, do you need more egg? I was like, nope. My vibes are telling me these are the right amount of ingredients and the wrong amount of cooking. Keep cooking. I put it in the oven 4 times. And it cooked for an hour. They got there. We just kept cooking. Anyway, ever since then, I've always thought to make a quiche, and I've always said, Claire, look up a recipe. And then I look at the recipe, I go, this is too much egg. I go, this is very American. I can already tell by the amount of egg. It's not like how I was taught.
Oh, we used to have some really lovely roommates. One of them made me cookies one time.
That's not true. For the people who don't know this story, she made herself cookies. She said we could have one. We finished them. I don't know her name, but I think her Instagram handle is like Yellow Banana.
I miss her so much.
Laffy Taffy.
I wish she still lived with you. I found her so inspiring. She was always going to volleyball or something.
I think she was just tall, thin, and blonde. I'm leaving the house. You projected a lot of. I had like 26 roommates in the span of 4 years or something. So a lot of women came and left.
She was my favorite.
I know. Because she made you cookies.
Claire, do you have any recommendations?
Yeah, I have actually great ones.
Okay.
1, I watched No Other Choice. Loved it.
Oh, I've heard it's great.
You've heard right. I really liked it. What a response to the crisis of masculinity. Scott Galloway should watch it. I really liked it.
I hope he hears this.
Yeah. Are you listening, Scotty?
We're on the same network.
Yeah.
There's a chance that he gets all of the Vox podcasts typed in.
Yeah, to mega mind it. Anyway. I don't even know why that makes me laugh. Okay, sorry. Okay, great movie. Watch it.
Okay.
Here's something I have to ask. Is every house in Korea like the coolest house in the world?
I haven't been. So
I know, me neither. Because I know I have a sample size of 2, Parasite.
Oh, yeah.
And this one movie, but 2 really cool houses. I get that in Parasite there was other homes that were less cool.
Yeah.
Specifically, that's what it was about. But
It was kind of about having a cool home gets you frogged.
But I get it. I mean, nobody said, oh, they didn't have room. Anyway, my point is, do all rich people in Korea have cool houses? Because in America, a lot of rich people have specifically ugly houses.
Tuscan.
Yeah, but worse.
Tuscan kitchens.
2, the play Joe Turner's Come and Gone.
Oh, yeah. You loved it.
It was really phenomenal. It's starring Taraji P. Henson, former memoirist.
Wow, we love Taraji.
Cedric the Entertainer, a fellow comedian.
Oh,
just like you, a comedian the way we're comedians.
Yeah.
2 peers, 3 peers in the industry. You, me.
And Cedric, the entertainer.
Phenomenal. And then the rest of the cast is so fucking good. I mean, everybody's phenomenal. I really was in there like gasping, laughing, gasping, crying. It brought me to tears. There's little kids. They do great.
Wow.
Yeah. So huge recommendation. I feel like last year my play of the year was Picture Dorian Gray. This year my play of the year I think is Joe Turner's Come and Gone. And I was actually, I almost never go to Reddit, but the one time I do go is when I want to see what the critics versus the people are saying about plays. Because we also saw Dog Day Afternoon.
Yes.
I was just curious what people were saying, but I was looking, they were doing all of the run for best play of the year. And I've seen a lot of them.
And you've been at the theater.
Yeah, I'm kind of a theater critique. And I have to say, I think if you're coming to see one, it's Joe Turner's Come and Gone by August Wilson.
You heard it here first?
Directed by Debbie Allen.
Cool.
Right?
Wow.
And she comes on at the beginning and tells you to turn off your phone. And I have to say, you listen.
I've been at 2 plays in the last couple weeks. Both times, multiple phone alarms.
It's an epidemic.
And I will say, you got to turn your phone on silent. Like, even if
that's not a big ask. I'll say I didn't turn my phone off, but I put it on silent.
I've never turned my phone off in the theater. I've never had the volume on in the theater. And I also feel like if you're the type of person to ever have, I mean, the only alarm I have set on my phone is morning time. If you are someone with multiple alarms throughout the day, you got to be diligent.
Yeah. And it seems like, how about this? An alarm to remind you to turn off your alarms.
That could be nice.
That's actually what the reminder is. They like make an announcement. Okay, recommendation number 3, and it's timely, so listen up. Listen up and listen quick. Cherry blossoms. We're in cherry blossom season. If you live where I live, it is upon us. I've been texting my group chat all week. Like, I'm scared, I'm frightened, I'm terrified because a couple of cherries are already in blossom. If you live in Brooklyn, the Brooklyn Botanical Gardens has a cherry blossom watch. They update daily about like what's in pre-bloom, what's in bloom, and what's in peak bloom. This weekend may be your weekend.
Yeah. And I think that if you live in this general region, I think you can trust the Brooklyn Botanical Gardens map.
Well, I bet you have a local map. Yeah, but I'm just saying,
for a
find
reasonable interpretation.
You have to find a cherry blossom in your neighborhood, and you have to fucking watch it like an eagle. For me, there's one on Nostrand and like Gates, and I get up there, and much like last week's recommendations, I look in the pods of the blooms to get a sense of where they're at in their growth.
Are you using a tool of any kind?
Yeah,
or
my eyes.
Raw eyeball.
Yeah, those are the best tools God ever gave us.
Balls deep in those blooms.
I'm not trying to upset them, but I am. Oh, like eyeballs.
Yeah.
Okay. You laugh, and if you were to miss the cherry blossoms, you'd be so sad.
Of course.
You laugh, and yet
I'm trying to go balls deep in those blossoms.
You laugh. You laugh, and yet this is so serious, and it kind of dictates if we have a good summer or not.
That's true.
So maybe buckle up and take it serious.
Yeah.
Do you have a microscope?
I have binoculars.
I don't know if that would apply here.
Okay.
Anyway, those are my 3 phenomenal recommendations.
Should we talk about what we're going to talk about this week?
We're talking about Artemis II. We are talking about tales from TikTok. Last week I brought tales from Twitter. The things that are happening on TikTok right now are scintillating and juicy. We are talking about the women of Trump's administration. And spoiler alert,
they're dwindling.
Turns out it's not so good to be a lady.
In a lady-hating administration.
Yeah, well, show me one that doesn't, you know?
It turns out you're not the exception to the rule, my friends. We are talking about a Manhattan fancy birthing hospital. We are talking about a horrifying case of deep fakes from Germany.
And then we've got a great caps off. And don't forget, you can submit them. You guys missed them when we didn't have it once, but we're out there working our butts off with magnifying glasses. And I'm sorry, but I'm balls deep in the flowers right now.
Before we get to our caps off, let's put our caps tightly back on and go to the moon.
First of all, you can't wear a hat in the moon.
You've got to wear a helmet.
Yeah, that's not a hat.
It's multiple hats.
It's a lot of hats glued together. They did my hair thing, but for hats.
So who's going to the moon, Claire?
3 Americans and 1 Canadian.
Oh, that's kind of like when we hang out with Mac.
Okay, 3 astronauts, Reed Weissman, Victor Glover, Christina Koch, and Canadian Space Agency astronaut Jeremy Hansen went to the moon.
Well, they went near the moon, right? They're not touching down.
Yeah, but they're going to the lunar pole.
They're going to the dark side of the moon.
The first time we've gone beyond low Earth orbit and near the moon since the big one, the moon landing.
And that they were just in a soundstage in Burbank.
I really like this note. Glover is the first person of color. Koch is the first woman. Hansen is the first non-U.S. citizen. And Weissman's the oldest person to leave the low Earth orbit. So everybody's got a little something.
Well, that's exciting. So I read that they are going to the far side of the moon and they're prioritizing like the illumination of the far side of the moon, and they're getting a couple different angles of it. So they're going to be able to understand like way, way more than we previously understood about like the topography of the moon.
Interesting. Yeah, they're going to be gone for 10 days. So far, so good. And I have to say, Victor Glover has a daughter on TikTok.
Yeah, she's really pretty too.
Yeah, and she's dancing and she's having fun with it. So if anybody gets famous off of this, I hope it's her.
Me too.
I also have gotten on Pretty Girl, who are aerospace engineer TikTok since this has happened. And I can't recommend it more. There are some really beautiful women in propulsion right now. And you can't, but I almost was like, is this real? Is this girl in a cool leather jacket really manning the home base of a space engine right now?
God, I hope so.
Yeah, she had great hair.
So something interesting that is happening simultaneously as we are going further than man has gone before, there is a current budget proposal that will slash NASA's budget by 23% by 2027.
By 2027, are they going to be home in time? They will. They'll be home in 5 days. God willing. And he's back.
So essentially what's happening is they're trying to cut a lot of agencies within NASA in obviously the Trump administration's massive budget cut agenda. And a lot of what they're trying to cut would cut down on like the scientific research of NASA and invest heavily in the space exploration of NASA. So they're
going to go up to space just to like not ask about it later?
Yes.
Isn't the only part that's like really helpful to us the research of what they find and like the developing new methods? Like, isn't that why we get to have microwaves now and stuff? Isn't that why the red light mask exists?
I think so, yeah.
I just feel like the only thing that really helps mankind is the research part.
Right. So essentially what they want to do is they want to establish a base on the moon. And then from there, they would be able to further get to Mars. Which is like part of an entire agenda that makes no fucking sense. But part of it is like, first of all, what's the point of any of that? Second of all, what is the point of spending millions and billions of dollars on that if we're not going to research the findings?
I guess the good news about space stuff is that it takes so many years to put this stuff together that like you know
Trump
will
be gone by the time it matters.
Getting to the moon, Trump is not getting to Mars. Like even this was supposed to go off in like 2017 or something. And then it just kept getting delayed.
Wow.
I think much like doing construction in New York City, the government has a timeline, double it. You know what I mean? Like they're not putting a base on the moon by 2027. They can't even get these motherfuckers to land. You know what I mean?
Your space contractor is lying to you.
One of the things that this space expedition was initially supposed to be was the Exploration Mission 2, which was supposed to support the now canceled asteroid redirect mission.
What's that?
It was supposed to be like they were going to go out and get a big chunk of asteroid that was going to be near Earth. And basically, I think they were going to try to figure out how to like redirect asteroids in the future.
Whoa.
And see if they had the power to like push them out of the way. And they were like, I don't think that's important. Which I agree. If we're going to nuke Iran, I don't think we need to worry about asteroids. Do you know what I mean? Like,
sure.
The call is coming from inside the house.
Right. The asteroids are here.
We're blasting them.
Right.
But yeah, I guess they repurposed it.
Interesting.
I love a lunar flyby is what they're calling it. How cool. I actually love that we still have astronauts. It gives like the kindergartner something to hope for.
My dad's named after an astronaut.
Which one?
James Lovell.
Random.
Yeah.
But why that one?
My grandma just liked him a lot. His name's James Lowell.
Wow, I'd never even heard of that one. Really.
Yeah, she like loved him.
Do you think she knew him personally?
No, because my other uncle is also named after an astronaut. And she didn't know either of them. She just liked astronauts.
Fair enough.
And like, who wouldn't?
I will say, I feel like astronauts were such a big thing when we were little. And it's interesting. I feel like this should be a bigger deal.
Yeah.
Is it just me? I only know because I was walking on the treadmill at Planet Fitness and I looked up and they said, in 1 hour, we're going to the moon. And I said, we? This Planet Fitness?
I didn't pack.
You know what I'm obsessed with? Because mostly what I know about going to outer space is like the time thing. Because like in space movies, the big deal is always the time difference. I know they're only going to be gone for 10 days, but I'm like, but how old will they be when they get back here? Will they be younger than before?
Will they be?
I don't think so.
Oh.
I don't know when the space problem comes into effect. I don't think they're entering a black hole. I don't know. I need to watch Interstellar again to get a good grasp on it.
Yeah, me too. I have never seen it. So I need to watch it again for the first time.
But I feel like there's other movies too where they're always going to outer space and they come back.
I mean, in Project Hail Mary, a big deal was that the amount of time he's gone is very different from the amount of time that it has passed on Earth. And so, you know, they're up against this clock of like not only his experience, but also the clock of like how fast Earth is crumbling under the pressure of no sunlight.
Exactly. So you have to wonder when they're gone for 10 days. It's like, what does that mean in space time?
Right. No, right. And like, are you packing snacks for Earth time or are you packing snacks for space time?
Are you packing retinol?
Great question.
You know what I mean? What's going to be the impact on the collagen? I guess no gravity. 10 days of your collagen having time to rebuild the sag.
Totally.
Ugh, good for them.
Should we get into what's going on with TikTok people right now?
So there's two stories that are really happening. One is, I don't know if you guys know Noah Beck.
He was one of the original Hype House boys.
He dated Dixie D'Amelio. He was kind of my crush. He's kind of my type.
And he's about to star in the new
Baywatch,
new Baywatch show.
He had an older sister who has recently been accused of grooming a teenage boy that was her student in high school. And I know if you're listening, you don't know these people, you go, who cares? And as I said it out loud, I kind of went, who cares? But if you're on TikTok, that feels like a really big deal. And now that I'm not looking at my phone, I can't remember why, but it really felt important to me. And I think if it matters to you, you're going to be happy to hear us talk about it.
I will say it kind of is a crazy case that has almost only really gotten attention because of the Noah Beck association with it all. And this is something that is preposterous that it wasn't really gaining traction. And obviously, it's not that it needed to become national news, but until it was gaining traction, she wasn't even officially fired from her job until
And
recently.
You have to wonder if the Noah Beck changes the way it was being responded to. Like, I wonder if in their town, he's like their biggest star. So this idea of hurting that family, you know what I mean? I wonder if there's kind of a glamour in being associated with the Becks at all.
Well, so this student was being preyed upon by two teachers.
Whoa.
There was Haley Beck and there was another teacher in her 40s. There was this really interesting headline.
Okay, kind of Lindy West core.
2 high school teachers accused of sexual misconduct with the same teenage student. It's not an achievement.
Oh, they mean like for him?
I think so.
Like in this headline, and we have to remind you that's not cool.
Yeah. Like this boy isn't the ultimate player for bagging 2 teachers. He just like happens to know 2 pedophiles.
So I didn't even know about this other teacher. I got really bogged down in the texts between Haley and this boy.
Yeah.
Because I was really upset. Because I feel like the reason you date a teenager, right, is for like the power. Like, you know what I mean? To be absolutely adored, right? Like you can't, you can't date someone your own age. So you find somebody who's not mature enough to question you. The power dynamic was so pathetic. She was like paying him. She was sending him money. I read this conversation where she was like, I'll give you $5 every time you compliment me, because he said he needed gas money. And the compliments weren't even good.
Damn.
They were like, I like your sneakers.
Damn.
There's nothing worse than be like, do you think I look pretty? And having a man be like, yeah, your shoes are cool. That's not a good compliment at all.
That's not a good compliment at all. That's really pathetic.
He also calls her out for fully being 27 years old, dating a cop, and doing a crime.
Oh my God.
And she's like, ha 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 ha, what?
So I guess by the time they hooked up, he was 18, but she was like very objectively grooming him for like 2 years.
There's stories that he was like eating candy out of her palm in class, that they went outside one time and had a fight. She let him borrow her car.
Oh my God.
She was getting him gifts.
And she was then suspended by the school, put on administrative leave, not fired until very recently. And also no actual charges had been brought on either of these teachers, which a lot of people are taking issue with because they've done crime. And another thing that I find really sad is, so there was a piece in the Atlantic about this like horrible sexual assault and racial assault. Just like this kid was being horribly bullied by his teammates at Harvard Westlake in LA,
Los Angeles. Like a really prominent private school.
And one of the more horrifying aspects of that case, like aside from the abuse that this kid endured, is that it then affected his college scholarship opportunities because he was embroiled in this controversy. He was just deemed part of a controversy.
Mm-hmm. He wasn't seen as like the victim of a controversy.
Right.
And I'm sure for these schools that like also have controversies they've shushed up, they're like, the school looks bad. We don't want to take on anybody who's made a school look bad.
Right.
Even though the kid is completely innocent
and like an absolute victim in this situation who didn't even want to come forward about his abuse because he was worried about the ways it would affect his opportunities for college scholarships. So this teenage boy apparently originally did not want to cooperate with the police because he was worried about college athletic scholarships, which, you know, as proven by the Harvard Westlake case, like it could affect scholarship. Like it has affected kids' scholarships by like coming forward about their own abuse. So, you know, I wonder if like, you know, the Haley Beck of it all is really harmful to him and his experience because like what will this publicity do, you know? Anyway, gross.
Gross, weird. I mean, I kept seeing comments saying that Noah Beck had like paid off the family.
Really?
I don't think, yeah, but you know how people get on TikTok. Who knows if that's substantiated or not?
Yeah.
But I do think that would change things. Unfortunately, there are all these old TikToks. There was a trend where it'd be like suspect accused of, and you like accuse your friend of something embarrassing. And it was like she was accused of all of her friends or her students. And she turns around and she goes, what? They're nice to me.
That's so sad.
Damning.
What happened with Elena Tabor?
So a recent TikTok influencer scandal that is in the New York City scene, which introduced me to almost everybody involved, but was still nonetheless very fascinating, is there's this woman named Elena Tabor. And I have to say, I was looking at her Instagram. She is really pretty and I like the way she dresses. But I was like, well, I get why she was an influencer. Knowing what I know, I still went in and I was like, well, where is that jacket from? Like, I wanted to be like, real quick, before you log off forever, where are those pants from?
And she won't log off forever. I will say something about her is that she's very gorgeous, but a little bit vibeless.
Well, not according to her. Hold on. So what happened with her is, I guess, though she's famous for, she like lives in Paris now. She's a fashion influencer, a fashion lifestyle. And most notably, she recently started dating Jamie Campbell Bower from Stranger Things. He plays Vecna.
Is that one of the strange things?
It's a strange name. I'll tell you that.
I never seen an episode of that show.
Me neither.
Oh, well, I bet he's in it.
Anyway, so I guess dating this man has gotten her a lot of press, a lot of snark. People have a lot to say about her dating a legit celebrity, as I think often happens. Like, I think the influencer to celebrity jump is quite meaningful in the snark world. That being said, she was caught this week snarking about herself. She posted a thread on New York City influencer snark called Elena Tabor updates, question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark. Then she posts a photo of Elena and her boyfriend, and then she writes, again, about herself. This relationship isn't new news, but I need someone to talk about this with, LOL. I haven't kept up with her as much, but she used to be one of my favorites back in the day, and I keep seeing her pop up with Jamie Campbell Bower, and it's so crazy to me, question mark, question mark. I loved her vibe a lot alongside Moya Mawini and Margot Lee and those girls who seemed cool and kind, etc. She seemed to be one of the few influencers who at least attempted a level of more researched, interesting content like the history lessons or the financial education or just traveling to more unique parts of the world and showing the culture by connecting with the locals. Even if a bit pseudo-intellectual sometimes, I really appreciated that there was more substance than so many of the other New York City consumers and final boss influencers I follow. I kind of stopped keeping up as much when she left New York City for Paris, but she doesn't seem to post as much. And maybe she's gone more private because of her relationship. It's insane seeing so much unhinged hate she gets just for existing and dating someone famous. I saw this TikTok recently and I'm like, damn, this would suck. LOL. And then she posted a hate TikTok someone had made about her, apparently. The problem is when you click the link to the TikTok, it shows you who sent the page. If you've ever received a TikTok from someone, it will say, like, do you want to join? So it said, do you want to join Elena Tabor on TikTok? There is a web ID embedded in it. If you're logged in on your own TikTok, it's traceable who has sent the link. Because of this, everybody immediately went, Elena, we can tell this is you. You sent it from your TikTok. They then went through her account's Reddit history and it found her shitting and snarking on other New York City influencers, some of whom
she's presumably friends with.
Thought they were friends with her.
Yeah. I think something so funny is I went back through her Instagram today, and on one of the posts of her and her boyfriend, there's like a post from an account that's just like E1010101001, and it's like a black avatar. And it says, this relationship isn't new news, but I need someone to talk about this with, LOL.
You found that yourself?
Yeah, I just found it just now.
And nobody else is talking about this?
And I found
I can't believe you're breaking an exclusive. That's crazy.
And that account has 1 follower and follows like 200 people. So it's just like a spam.
It's her stalking
It's like
account.
her spam account, I think.
Wow. Which is really ironic because one of the posts she was found snarking on a friend, Brooke Michio from Gals on the Go, she said, I only say her name because they talked about it on their podcast this week. Finally, someone said it. She clearly has bought most of her followers with how she, quote unquote, grew in $263K in a year. My guess is she's probably paying a really good PR agency, which is anywhere from $4,000 to $10,000 a month to put you forward for shows, events, etc. But I want to know how she got so many brand deals. And I still question sitting front row at all these shows when it doesn't seem like she even has a real audience. She posts so many partnerships and is probably raking in the cash, but her engagement is non-existent. I also can't stand how she started copying Vichy Montari style video, etc.
Okay, that part's not important to me.
Okay.
The part that's important to me is her going into the details of she's obviously paying a PR agency to do XYZ to explain how she got these things. I used to be a social media person for a brand. That job evolved into me being like our influencer partnerships person. I was in charge of like finding influencers to partner with and sending them our product. I worked for a pretty stingy company. So we would do these series of collaborations where we would try to find like 10 influencers that we would gift a set to and ask for like an in-feed post in return, which now, especially as someone who's like somewhat on the other side of it, I am like, what we were asking for was actually psychotic. But even then, I knew what we were asking for was quite stingy.
Well, I feel like it's grown a lot since then. Like influencer marketing has become a whole thing. But I will say, even back then, like, because that guy only wanted to work with the best of the best. And you're like, yeah, there's a reason they're the best. They charge.
Right. And also what we would ask for was very specific. We would ask for photo approvals. We would ask for, and I would try to explain that this was like unrealistic, but
a photo approval is like when you, the brand, get to choose what they post.
Yeah. So like they send you the photos before the posts go live. He would ask people to reshoot for free, which is psycho. Anyway, we reached out to this one influencer via their PR agency who had, I think, like 600,000 followers. And they said, you know, obviously she's not going to do this just for free product, but we have this younger influencer who's trying to build up her like collabs, you know, portfolio. And she at that point had 60,000 followers. And I asked my boss if we could work with her instead. It was Elena Tabor. And that's how I know who she is. And so I do think that fact that, you know, how long ago was that? That was like 7 years ago. When she was much smaller, that she had this PR agency like pitching her for collabs as like the smaller person trying to build up her collabs resume. And now she's accusing this other girl who's supposedly her friend of doing that exact. Like the only reason she knows to say those things is because that's what she did.
It also is pretty standard.
It is pretty standard.
It's pretty standard in the industry that at some point in order to, like, you just have to have these people on.
Yeah. I mean, it's not crazy to have a PR person, especially if you're trying to grow. Like, that's the point of having PR. They actually won't work with people that they don't see growth potential for.
And it also, like, you pay PR to help grow you so that you can get brand partnerships.
Yeah. I just think it's so funny that I know her through being pitched her before she was on our radar as someone that we, like, would have worked
via
with.
PR, yeah.
Yeah.
I have to give her credit. I think my feeling is this.
Oh, yeah. I'm interested to hear.
You know, I'm pretty Reddit phobic.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to the point where, like, I'll look at my neighborhood's Reddit for, like, restaurant info. And then I've started looking at, because like I'll Google like dog day afternoon reviews, and like if the first thing that pops up, I am kind of curious the critics' thoughts and then like what the people think. But for the most part, I find that if I see myself on Reddit, it hurts my feelings and takes me down for weeks and weeks and weeks. And I do have, I think, like one of my superpowers is like a lack of curiosity. I am happy. Like if I know it's there, it hurts my feelings, but I'm very good not looking for it, which I think is maybe, I guess, unique to me. Like I can't.
I had to teach it to myself.
Yeah.
Hard.
Yeah. And I feel like it came to me a bit easier, that I'm just like happy to not know. What I don't know can't hurt me. The idea of starting your own thread in a community that exists solely to hate people like you is one of the braver things. Like I'm really impressed by it, because I'm not tough like that. I would kill myself. Like, you know what I mean? Like
yeah.
I can't imagine wanting that kind of publicity. I can't imagine wanting that kind of like cruelty in your life. I just saw a video of Audrey Peters talking about how she used to read all of her Reddit stuff and she thought it was really helpful feedback. And I was like, girl, that's why you, not me. Like, I really am like, okay, well, that's like the limit on my success. I actually can't wade into hate waters just to like fix myself based on what strangers think. I'm sure they have some good advice. I
have to believe that if negative feedback is out there for me, it'll come to me at a time where I'm ready to receive it and in a way that is constructive.
Yeah, I guess I'm happier
and
to
it won't be on a Reddit thread.
I'm happier to stay small. You know what I mean? I don't know that I have it in me to like see all that much hate, change myself based on what randos are saying about me, and then hope to be like a more successful business. I am a person first. And I can't break. And that's what, you know, it's damn. I wish it wasn't so.
Oh, this soft shell. I wish we could harden you up.
I really do.
No, I don't. I
wish I could put one big ballet flat in my whole body and give me some thicker blistered skin, but I can't. I wish I was all scar tissue.
I wore a ballet flat the other day, and I'm reaping the
and you're
punishment.
tougher and you're stronger for it.
Not yet.
Soon. Anyway, so I just want to say, good for you, Elena. I can't imagine the career choice you made to date that man, and then the way that you're like, by God, I'll get my credit one way or the other, even if it kills me, even if it blows up in my face and makes me a laughing stock of Instagram. But now I know your name, and I have to say, I do think you're beautiful, and I do think you dress well, and I'm interested in where your stuff's from, so you won. But I'm not tough like that. You know, I can't take it. I'm not a Kim Kardashian. I can't weather the storm.
I mean, we've seen me in a storm. It doesn't go good.
Just last night, I got my feelings hurt by Mac, because he came up to me and he said, please, Claire, when you eat kisses, you can't just leave the wrappers everywhere you go. And I said, you think I don't know that? You think I'm choosing? I know. It was an accident. I thought I'd go back for them, but then I forgot.
You know, when there's like a hurricane and the palm fronds snap off the tree and go flying, I was never even attached to the tree.
Yeah, you're actually a kite caught in the tree.
You just gust in my general direction, and I'll go where you need me to go.
Any hoodles. So good for you, Elena. That's what's kind of going on TikTok. Those are the fun gossips to get. Hey, may we all be such winners in life that our own friends are saying they must have paid for that.
Yeah.
I hope you guys are looking at me going, did she pay for that?
I hope I'm so successful all my friends hate me and I have nothing left.
What do I always say? I say, people think real friendship is tested when you're down and out, but actually real friendship is tested when you get the thing they always wanted.
Yeah.
That's when your real friends reveal themselves. Who's happy for you when things are going good? It's actually way harder.
It turns out not Elena.
Yeah, I never even thought she was my real friend, and so I'm happy to find out.
I gave you a duvet.
Okay, so you have a bad story, huh?
Mm-hmm.
From Germany?
From Germany.
A country where nothing bad ever happens, really.
There was a beautiful girl. Her name was Collien Fernandes. And she is like a actress, I think like a public figure. She had a husband who was also like a actor, comedian. They were a public couple.
Actor, comedian, say no more. I found my villain.
They were both public people. I mean, you know, he stood by her side when she was going through something horrific. There were deep fake porns being made about her from an account that was claiming to be her. And it had been circulating for years. For years, she was trying to get to the bottom of who was behind these deep fake accounts that were using AI to just like sell and circulate these like horrible images of her. I mean, I won't get into the specifics of it, but like whatever you can imagine is the worst thing to have deep faked of you. Like they were doing that. She even made a documentary about it.
Oh my God.
In 2024, she made a documentary about trying to hunt down and find who was behind these accounts. And after the documentary came out, she claims in her current lawsuit that her, at the time, husband admitted to it.
And so they've since divorced?
They've since divorced since his...
And after the divorce, she found out? Or
no,
they got divorced because...
They got divorced because she found out.
Well, I didn't know if maybe they got divorced and then once he was out of the loop. Because I imagine your husband knows everything that you're telling the PI and you know what I mean? Like, it's like a Dexter situation of like, if he knows what you know, he can kind of stay one step ahead.
So supposedly, according to her and her current lawsuits that she's filed, she didn't find out that it was him. He told her after her documentary came out. And now he's alleging that that's not true. He didn't say that. It wasn't him.
Why would he say that?
I don't know. She has brought a lawsuit against him. They had lived in Majorca before they got divorced, and she's suing him in Spain, not Germany, because Spain has slightly better laws for this type of thing. In Germany, there are still significant loopholes where it's still illegal to create porn deepfakes of people, but it's not being treated as like
revenge
violence.
porn. Okay.
She wants it considered, and rightfully it should be considered domestic violence, domestic assault, and like revenge porn. But it's only in Germany, the only like law there is like that you can't create pornographic deepfakes.
But it's more than that.
But it's much more than that. And so there are protests happening in Germany right now that are essentially saying we need a better legal structure if technology is going to progress in this way, which it obviously already has. And the chancellor, I think that's what it's called.
Yeah.
Friedrich Merz has said, you're right, we need laws to protect Germans from migrants. He's basically being like, there's sexual violence being done by immigrants. And everyone is like, what the fuck are you literally, like, what are you talking about? This is about a white German man who created revenge porn of his wife.
Like in direct response to the request for this law, he's like, no, the only sexual attacks are coming from migrants.
Yes.
Even though they have an example. And even though it's clearly the direction that all of this is headed.
Yes. He keeps trying to redirect and go like, but what about the migrants? And everyone's like, what about the migrants? There's literally sexual violence being perpetrated by one specific white guy and probably many others. So we need laws to protect women.
Oh my God.
And he goes, yes, laws to protect women from migrants. And it, you know what I mean? It's like this.
No, I hear it.
There are protests happening right now that Collien spoke at, and her coming forward and kind of being the face of this movement, she's being compared to, what's her name, Pellicott?
Oh yeah, Giselle Pellicott.
Yeah, who very bravely came forward last year, I believe, to talk about the way her husband sexually assaulted her and like used
her face, right?
Her
she
face.
was, like, very public in order to become like a galvanizing figure.
Right. So now Collien is doing that essentially for the digital space, saying like, I will stand forward and like be the face of this movement to hopefully result in more laws to protect women from online violence, because it is an act of assault. It's not just like creating an AI deepfake. People are using her body and her likeness out of her control. And another thing that has been very interesting to like, obviously it's not parallel to, but another factor in the way that online bot farms and online campaigns can be used to harm women in legal situations. An example was like the Johnny Depp case, the Angelina Jolie, she was like, had a lawsuit where there was bot farms against her. And it like really does harm the reputation of a woman in lasting ways that it just doesn't for men. People don't care about
Chappell
allegations.
Roan,
I mean, Chappell
it's come
Roan.
out that a lot of the conversation around her has been instigated by bots.
Yeah, and that will stick. Like this story about Chappell Roan, that she was mean to an 11-year-old, no matter what comes out to correct it, it's just going to be a part of her narrative now. And like it doesn't stick in the same way for men. And so there do need to be legal protections for like online violence towards women. And there just aren't. a lot of it is because people don't consider it violence in the same way that like physical assault is classified as violence.
We need to stop Elena Tabor from her online snarking.
So that's what's happening there. Respect and support to Collien. I think that's how you say it.
I like can't imagine how you bounce back from like having a person you trust like that be the number one person hurting you. I mean, and not just in the home, like globally and in this way that those images will exist forever.
Yeah. I mean, I can't think of anything more horrific. And I think it's so brave that she's willing to move forward with this to help other women.
I guess I am like, he has to be put in a cage and in the ocean.
Yeah.
Like that's a psychopath, right?
Yeah.
Like how could you watch somebody, even somebody you hate, like cry about this?
I guess I think to hear about this happening to anyone.
You're like, that's horrible.
Right.
So to have somebody in real life tell, anyway. Men going to the moon and beyond in ways to fuck over a woman.
I wonder what they'll find on the other side of the moon. Maybe some new ideas with how to destroy women.
Revenge porn, but it's in the water now.
So speaking of girls, though, they're not doing great. They're getting eaten alive at the birthing center.
The Cut came out with an article last week that was a bit
incendiary.
I was going to say clickbaity.
Yeah.
There is a hospital on the Upper East Side where if you give birth there, you get like a bag of Chanel goodies when you leave. And it has become quite like the elite birthing center to be at. I do want to say the woman who was interviewing for the article found somebody who thought she was going to get a full bag. It's like, no, you get perfume, which is worth $8, maybe, including the glass if you were to melt it down, and like a face wash and maybe a lipstick.
Yeah, and it's because of the donors of the hospital, right?
It's because the CEO of Chanel's daughter went there to give birth.
Okay.
And apparently Chanel does have a foundation, like the Foundation Chanel, Chanel, which is a huge benefactor of like women's maternity. Do you know, like it is a rich person's hospital and it's on the Upper East Side, and the Chanel goodie bags are a symbol of the larger idea there. So it was created like 20 years ago by Alexandra Cohen and her husband. I can't remember his name, but he's a big hedge fund guy. He owns the Mets. I want to say Seth, but that just sounds like the name of a guy who would own the Mets. I don't think it's
no. Seth Cohen is
the OC.
Yeah,
but I bet he's a Mets fan.
I bet he's a Dodgers fan.
No,
he's probably an Angels fan.
Not for nothing. I could see him being a fan of the Mets.
Okay.
Anyway. So it was supposed to be a birthing only center. It's like an offshoot of New York Presbyterian. It's very elite. The joke is if you want to get an appointment there, you have to like call a doctor associated with the hospital as soon as the pee is dry on the stick, baby. Somebody said they got their appointment by calling 4 months before she got pregnant. Have an appointment with that doctor. The way it works is like you have to work with an OBGYN who delivers at certain hospitals. The thing that's also so great, more than the Chanel gift bag, even though that gets like a real, that's like an ooh and ah thing. But the real luxury of this birthing center is that all of the rooms are private.
Right.
Including the NICU rooms. And I was reading comments, and of course, I've never given birth anywhere, let alone outside of New York City. But I think something that is quite common in even the most expensive of hospitals in New York City is that very often you have to share a room. And if you want a private room, it's an extra $750.
Yeah. And also you have to hope to God that the timing is right.
Yeah, that there's availability. It's an additional couple grand if you want to stay a couple days to be recouped, recharged, rejuvenated, whatever.
Rejuvenated.
So this big building was built. It was also clamoring to be like the number one birthing center in New York. It was built to have 7,000 births a year. Something about numbers like this is I'm always like, is that all? Doesn't it feel like, I guess just based on the rate of the pit, I'm like, they're probably giving birth to 7,000 women a day. Doesn't it like 7,000 a year?
Yeah, it's hard to say because I don't really know what that number divides out to per day.
Okay, let's do the math. 350.
Oh, I knew you were going to make me do the math. I thought we could just skate
I think it's like
it.
about 20 a day.
See, that feels like a lot.
Yeah, I guess that does feel like a lot. You're just thinking,
especially
I guess
because
sometimes I run the numbers on births and stuff, and I'm like, how could it be so competitive to get into elementary schools here if there's only 7,000 kids a year and there's like 30 high schools? Do you know what I mean? Numbers like that, I'm like, where is the competition?
I guess the problem is that 7,000 babies a year at one hospital that's known for luxurious spacing.
Well, more than that, the problem is they've gotten up to 8,900 births a year.
Which is too many.
So this big article came out in The Cut being like, this used to be, it was supposed to be beautiful. It was supposed to be patient. It was supposed to be calm. It was beige. And you guys know what beige means.
Nice.
And they were going to have bathtubs and you have your own room. And Beyonce was there once. I don't know. I made that part up.
Okay.
I did hear that there's some giant suite somewhere where Beyonce gave birth and she I think she was on bed rest, so they just made an entire floor for her.
She could do that for sure.
I mean, she did.
Yeah. I would build it for her.
Well, you didn't. Where were you when she needed you?
I was busy doing a different remodeling project. But I could just scratch through another bed. This article definitely takes on a tone to point out all of the frivolous elements of this hospital. You know, they talk about the Chanel sample bags that some people think are going to be full purses. Some people are like, well, even getting some Chanel samples made a traumatic birth worth it. The hallway was painted in a very specific way to be calming to birthing women, but it's pointed out by people who were interviewed for this story that women aren't even allowed to really be in the hallways. You're supposed to be in your room the entire time, and in your private room, you will stay. I mean, there's definitely an angle here to say, yeah, it's so beautiful, but for who?
Well, the bigger story is it's not even beautiful anymore. That now it seems since the creation of it a few years ago, things are falling apart. The main problem is because hospitals see maternal health and maternity wards as customer getters, essentially, that if they buy your loyalty to that hospital by giving you a good birthing experience, then they'll have your business for the rest of these years. They said that actually maternity wards are money losses for these hospitals, that they actually don't make money on them. They lose money on them, but that they're hoping that the women are health choosers for the family. Down the road, when your son breaks his arm, you'll come back to that hospital.
How awesome that we live in a for-profit medical system.
And now they're saying, since it's so important to them to get a market share of the birthed babies, they are bringing more mothers in than they can handle. There's not enough nurses. They had all these different stories from people being one person said she got fleas. One person is they'll give you the Pitocin, right?
Picotin?
No, a Picotin is what I think I'm mixing it up with. That's an Hermes bag.
Oh.
There were a lot of stories of them giving you a little bit, and they're supposed to up the dose to induce labor. And sometimes they would just call it quits and be well, just keep them at that level. We don't have time right now for them to go into labor. And people are what are you talking about? That there's not enough staff, that people are being rushed in and rushed out of rooms.
An accusation in this story is that if you are not moving along fast enough, they have a time limit where they go, well, then just get him to C-section.
Yeah, that they'll just do a surgery unnecessary on you. That people had not had the luxurious experiences, that people found that it was dirty, that people were going into new rooms and seeing old stuff and amniotic fluids. And anyway, they were saying that the quality is far gone.
That women were not even cleaned up after their birth.
And that ironically, you might have a better experience elsewhere because all the fancy women on the Upper East Side are trying to get this status birthing center that has left the old rooms empty. So that was the story. This was the big tell-all. Is this fancy birthing hospital actually a little bit nasty? Is everything falling apart?
And are you going to be in danger?
Yeah.
And so the comments of this article were vehemently in disagreement, I would say. For the most part, obviously, some people relished in the idea that ooh, this fancy hospital isn't fancy after all. I couldn't have it, and now no one even gets a fancy birthing experience that isn't traumatic, which is obviously sad. But a lot of people are saying a lot of these stories are very anecdotal, and there are very proven outcomes about having privacy after you give birth, about having these separated NICU rooms so your baby isn't just in a pit of babies when they are fighting for their lives. These experiences do translate into extremely positive outcomes, and this story is kind of a hit piece on a hospital that is being maligned for no reason.
Yeah. And I do think it's interesting because, of course, we're talking about the Upper East Side here. In New York City, we're talking about wealthy women, predominantly white women, people who are being I had a bad experience. Someone quoted a statistic that said white women often have a worse time mentally after birth, whereas Black women, of course, have a much higher mortality rate. And they were wondering if it comes from these kind of fancy Chanel-based birthing centers. It's when you give somebody this idea that they're going to have this luxury experience, the reality is so far from the promise that it becomes traumatic. Whereas if we could just give people quality care, maybe less fancy, but you get your privacy, you get a doctor who listens to you, you're almost better off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, people were fighting it on both sides.
It is ultimately, I think, an indictment on the American healthcare system. I mean, the fact that you aren't just shoved into a room full of birthing women and then a room full of recently birthed babies, the idea that in order to get privacy, that is kind of the hallmark of a luxury experience, that is pretty harrowing.
Yeah. And so then, of course, you have on the other side, I think more interestingly or more importantly, ProPublica came out with an article a few weeks ago called They Didn't Want to Have C-Sections. A Judge Would Decide How They Gave Birth, about two women in Florida in the same hospital in Tallahassee, two Black women. One was a doula. They actually both had very similar experiences where they were both on their fourth child. They had 3 previous C-sections. They were determined to give a vaginal birth because they had such a hard recovery time from their previous C-sections. I believe that every time you have a C-section, it gets harder and harder. And there's kind of like a limit, they think, on how many you can kind of have in a healthy reason. And they had both questioned why they had already had C-sections. It says in this article that almost a third of all births in America are C-sections. And as Ashley said, like sometimes it's questioned, is it because the hospital's running out of time? Is like, do people push for these medical interventions at a higher rate than is necessary? I think a lot of people have brought on doulas. I think it's part of why people have turned to home births and midwives, because they feel that doctors are quick to cut when it's not necessarily necessary, and that's like a harder recovery. Anyway, so these two women both had decided they did not want C-sections. Both had an experience where in the middle of long labors, the doctors brought in an iPad with a judge. They brought in hospital lawyers, hospital advocates, and this woman who had no lawyer and no advocate was just alone on a bed giving birth.
In labor, okay.
Was in now a court hearing to defend her right to give birth the way she wanted. In both situations, the judge determined that legally the hospital was allowed to require a C-section. The hospital stance, which I think is like not completely unreasonable, like I think you can understand where they're coming from, was essentially that they felt it was a necessary surgery to save both the mother and the baby's life. However, the problem is anyone else in America, including like prisoners, are allowed to reject any kind of medical intervention. That only pregnant women are forced by law to have medical intervention placed upon them. And this is a long-standing issue that we're having as like fetal rights advocates get more and more strength, specifically in Florida, which is like kind of ground zero for fetal personhood rights is what they're calling it. So basically they're allowed to say, well, we're worried we'll lose the baby if we do it your way. Because both of these women had horrible C-sections already. And they said, at this point, I'm worried I could die from the C-section or I won't be able to heal from it. I won't be able to take care of my family after the C-section. And they said, well, in order to save the baby, the fetus, we get to override what you want for your body, even if it puts you at risk. And it does, in fact, put the impetus on saving the fetus over the mother. The larger implications here are kind of like in Florida, you know, they have sent pregnant women to jail for trafficking drugs to children because they took drugs while pregnant.
Oh my God.
This was seen as trafficking drugs to the fetus. Another example is they had a mother who came in at 25 weeks. They wanted her on bed rest. She insisted she had to go home to take care of her children. The doctors had a judge bring that woman back. They gave her a C-section and she ended up having a stillborn baby because the baby actually, like what was requiring the bed rest, the baby was not viable. They did it against her will without even telling her that the baby was probably not going to make it anyway.
Okay, this is like some real horror movie stuff.
Yeah. This also includes the horrible situation that happened in Georgia recently where a woman died and they were able to keep the baby alive and give birth. This includes like situations where women who have had terminal cancer, women who have been in accidents, their lives have been disregarded in order to get the fetus out of the mother and give birth to it via C-section or medical intervention.
Yikes.
And, you know, this article, ProPublica, of course, and this is more editorial, but something very interesting. They say, you know, pregnant women in Florida have the least personhood medical authority over their own bodies, more than like a prisoner on a hunger strike. Also, interestingly, this idea that only with a pregnant woman are you allowed to bypass somebody's safety to like go in and save another person in a state where you're allowed to not vaccinate your kids. So like they can't go in and make you vaccinate your kids to save your kid and the kids around them, but they can cut you open
to harvest a child.
Yes. They can like keep your dead body on life support in order to incubate a child.
Mm-hmm.
The fetal rights are now almost officially outweighing the mother's rights. I guess I just think like rightfully so, it's an interesting counterpoint to like the Cuts article of, I don't know, there's something like, it just feels two very different worlds of being like, oh no, is this fancy birthing hospital?
Like you were promised an Upper East Side luxury experience and birth is still hard
in America no matter what. And I feel like, you know, a lot of people in the comments I think were frustrated by the fact that like the United States is alone in having some of the worst maternal mortality rates of first world countries, of countries like with this much money. And there is something a little tongue in cheek about being like, oh, was your Chanel not that good, when in Florida, women are like losing rights over their body rapidly. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I guess what I found to be like the most harrowing part of the Alexandra Cohen Hospital is the accusation that they are like rushing people to C-section, or like putting basically like number of births over patient safety. And I think that as an accusation is like really damning and scary. And I think it's interesting to like couch this article in women wanting Chanel.
Yeah, I agree. And I guess I feel like I understand that there was a lot of people in the comments who were like, I did have a great experience, or like, no matter what, this is hard, or like all over the country, this is hard. I understand the feeling people had of being like, oh, I'm sorry that you can't buy your way to an easy birth, or like to a fancy birth, or an Instagrammable birth, especially in light of like so much of this country is like losing bodily autonomy.
Like it's such a far cry from the right to a like quiet, luxurious, like aesthetic birth. People are just like wanting the right to decide like the general route to birth, and like even the general obligation to give birth at all.
Anyway, I just think it was important to like round out what else was happening to women birth-wise. And I will say Alexandra Cohen really denies that they had fleas.
Yeah. I guess I will say, obviously believe all women. But if no one else has reported fleas, they hop.
Yeah, especially you have to imagine in a hospital.
Yeah. But like huge if true, I guess.
It's hard because I feel like it's to a person. It's like your doctor, your nurse. I mean, you know, as somebody who's watched The Pit.
Yeah. You know a lot.
It really depends.
Okay, should we get into the last gals of the day?
Something
horrible has happened to the women in the Trump administration.
Oh no, I thought
they were the safe ones. I thought they were the good ones that we should all strive to be, but they're getting fired too.
That feels completely random though, because I don't think the administration sees the difference between men and women.
I know. It seems like they wouldn't, because Trump put together a pretty female-heavy cabinet compared to previous cabinets, not compared to like numbers of women that would constitute a majority or even like a high percentage. But the women of the Trump administration are, it seems, being picked off one by one. It's not looking good for the gals out there, the gals who thought that if they just kind of backed up this like psychotic patriarchal regime, they would be safe. That's just not always true. It sucks. It sucks that you can't always be one of the good ones, even when you say, I thought you were one of the good ones.
Well, one of the safe ones.
Yeah. So first it started with Kristi Noem. She was fired a couple weeks ago.
And her husband, how's he been taking it?
I mean, his boobs are bigger than ever. He's having the time of his life.
That's what I would do if my spouse got fired too. If Matt gets fired, I'm like, well, I guess I gotta get some honkin' bazungas on the horn and find a new husband. It's an investment in myself.
In August, the Center of Disease Control, Susan Monares, I actually don't know how to say her name, I'm sorry, Suze, was fired weeks after being confirmed. Marjorie Taylor Greene has stepped down after ending up on Trump's bad side.
Why did he get mad at her?
She had some questions about the Epstein situation.
And that made him mad?
Yeah, he called her, I believe the quote was,
a low
IQ traitor.
Which is what I would call MJ from season 2.
So she became a low IQ traitor and has left Congress. She's also received death threats.
That's exactly how I would act if I was innocent too.
Yeah, no, me too.
When somebody accuses me of something I didn't do, I go, we have to have them killed.
I would say, well, you have a low IQ and you're a traitor. The most recent firing has been Pam Bondi, the Attorney General.
Which is such a perfect name for her.
I know.
Sometimes I'm like, you are a Pam Bondi.
I go, oh, Pam.
And like, I am like, that's what you are. You're Pam Bondi.
And the thing is, Pam did everything right.
Well.
In her role that she was hoping to have. Almost everything right. So Pam Bondi.
She made the mistake of saying she had a list of all the Epstein perpetrators on TV.
That's true.
That was like a huge mistake.
But Pam Bondi, in her hearing, in her confirmation hearing, she said, I swear to fucking God, I swear to fucking all who witness, that I am going to do the job as it's intended to be, bipartisan. I won't let politics influence my attorney generalship. Days later, after her confirmation, she said, all right, Trump, list your enemies. We're getting those motherfuckers arrested. justice will be served, they said together. And it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough because she said she had a list of all of the Epstein clients on her desk. She rolled that back and said, I didn't mean a list of Epstein clients. I meant like a list generally also. Like everyone makes lists. You have a to-do list on your desk. I have a list on my desk also.
Yeah, to do. Find all the Epstein people.
Exactly. To do. Make a list. Anyway, so she's now been fired.
Which sucks because she went after all of Trump's political opponents and she tried really hard to get a lot of the things he wanted done put in through office. And just because a lot of judges rejected them doesn't mean she wasn't trying.
Also in peril is Caroline Leavitt, the press secretary, who has been, doing her damnedest to get before people and lie. I watch her and I go, she's a genius.
Okay, if you are with your liberal family during a holiday and you don't know what to do, I would really recommend looking up Kendall Landreth's impression of Caroline Leavitt. Kendall, Kendahl. She's like one of my favorite people. She's so funny. She has the best impressions.
She does an incredible job. I like when she goes, next question.
The secret thing about Ashley is if she wanted to, she could do impressions, but she won't.
I won't put on a wig. They're itchy.
You could use a green screen and just a bald cap, and then you could put the wig on the green screen.
I don't want to put
stand
on a
in
bald
front of
cap.
it.
It's too itchy.
What if I put my bald hands on top of your head?
Okay.
What if I got green gloves and put them on top of your head?
I would do that.
And then make a green screen in the wig on my hand.
Okay. We'll try that. We'll keep you guys updated with how that goes. Anyway, so Caroline Leavitt, as the press secretary, has been doing her fucking damnedest. I feel like a lot of people get intimidated in that situation. She's in her 20s still, I think. And she's
pregnant with her second kid. And she has like an old husband, so that's exhausting.
Ask me a question.
Ashley.
Yeah.
You got me, this is actually something I've been meaning to ask you in real life.
Uh-huh.
You got me an Apartamento subscription for the year, but I only ever really received one. Will there be others?
Well, maybe you need to get yourself an Apartmento and stop sleeping on the street like someone who doesn't know how to get magazines.
That's really I didn't mean to ask you so accusatorily. I just wanted to say.
Can I say, well, I'm actually curious because I spent a 1 year subscription.
That's
amount.
what I was saying. I wanted to let you know I feel I'm not being sent what you paid for.
Okay, well, I'll follow up with
But you did a really good job turning that around into like hating the homeless.
Yeah.
Good job.
Thank you. Anyway, she does like pretty geniusly turn every question into something that is like both cruel to the asker and also like racist and also not answering the question.
Next question.
No question.
Next question. She's also gotten a lot of work done in a way that's kind of successful.
Yeah, but she is currently pregnant and Donald Trump is currently really mad at her.
He's saying she's doing a bad job, quote.
Yeah, and his 93% people think he's doing bad rating. 93% bad publicity is her fault. And so people are saying, well, she's about to leave for maternity leave and chances are we won't be seeing her again.
Thank God. A woman should spend time with her kids.
Exactly. I mean, what did she think? She was going to have kids and then stay at her job?
One is a lot. Two is really pushing it, Carolyn. Those guys don't want you around.
Anyway, the thing is, in Donald Trump's wildly disorganized and unsuccessful cabinet, the only people who seem to face consequences for their mistakes and their missteps are women. That's what's been kind of noted heavily here is that, like, not that justice for Pam Bondi, obviously, like, she's a fucking lunatic, but also why is Kash Patel, whose, like, private emails have been leaked?
I mean, Pete Hegseth, who a year ago leaked war crime on Signal app.
Yeah, like, why doesn't anyone care about that? I mean, Pete has...
that name is, like, the consonants are all mixed up, right?
I don't want to say it.
I don't want to say... I'm like, I could spell it for you, but, like, there's something in the mouth. You're not supposed to move your tongue that way.
And so the answer that many women who've tried to embed themselves in the right have found is that this is an inherently sexist administration. Pete Hegseth has actually specifically... Pete Handkerchief has specifically taken women and people of color and women of color off the military promotions list.
Really?
So that high-ranking military officers can only be white men, basically.
It's, like, really crazy.
It's really insane. I mean, in the cuts to medical research, there was like a really predominant amount of funding that was pulled was from like female researchers and like women doctors.
Well, we have made such strides with women.
So I keep looking at that, women are just in the hospitals, absolute victims of their own babies, but why research anything?
I like to see giving birth as a war betwixt the future and the past, and the new one must kill the old one.
Okay, I think there's a lot of movies about that.
Very Greek tragedy.
Anyway, so the thing is, women are finding that by embedding themselves in the Trump administration, they're not making themselves safe. They are just kind of targets later than the women who weren't initially embedded in the administration. There was a piece last month about the women of Maga who are kind of starting to distance themselves because they're finding that by putting themselves in that position, they have not actually, like I said, protected themselves. They've just like pushed themselves further down the line of like the women that are going to get attacked next. There's one woman who is like, was a far right female podcaster who then had children and was like, oh, actually raising kids is really hard. And maybe having a more equal home is useful.
Someone did a Q&A and they asked, what do you think of Ashley St. Clair doing this like weird ploy against Elon? And I said it's actually an interesting example of so many people, we joke like you get canceled and then you just go right wing.
Mm-hmm.
It's an interesting example that she got kicked out of like the right wing manosphere. And now she's like crawling back to the left being like, oh my God, I just found out those guys are really evil. We hate them. And it really is true that like either side will welcome you with open arms if you like renounce the other side and see how wrong you were and are willing to like self-flagellate about it. You know what I mean? And I think that that's what she's doing right now. She's like, clearly she got chewed up, spit out by that side. She still is not being publicly claimed by Elon Musk. She has his kids, she says. And so now she's coming to the left to be like, oh, I hate those guys. You were right.
Yeah.
Anybody want to do an endorsement deal with me?
And it is interesting to see what's possible from people who there's nothing internal grounding them.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? They're looking for
attention
and belonging in a space, whichever one will have them. And it's interesting that the things that push women out of the right are these like immovable traits, like a woman becoming a mother. Like now that she's had that experience, you can't change that. And she like is exposed to what that means in a way that she can't fix and like realizes how unwelcoming the policies of the right are in that situation. Like by being a woman, it is like an immovable trait that like pushes you further out of the right, no matter how hard you want to be in it. And you just like can't reject about yourself that you just are a thing that they despise. And like there are these women in the Intelligencer piece who are talking about how they didn't realize that these right-wing religious sects, they're like, it is one and the same with those far right, like women hating, women subjugating lunatics. And it's like, yeah, they're all on the same team. And they really don't realize that until they're subjected to the wrath of it, because they think that by being like light sexist, like you can just kind of live in a space where people are casually sexist without it like fully being who they are. And that's not true. If you are kind of sexist, you're willing to go full woman hater. Like, why would you be like, I'm a little bit sexist, but not in a mean way? And I'll never be sexist in a mean way. That's just not real. And what I find really interesting about it is the fact that a lot of these women, when interviewed, will talk about the things they hate about the left. And what they're talking about is like far left ideology for the most part. When the Democrats are sitting there pandering to the middle as hard as they can and no one can hear it.
Yeah.
It's because of the way they believe on the right. Like on the right, there was a quote in there about how like no one can be too far right. The right has to accept everyone that calls themselves the right. Whereas the left obviously is trying to distance itself from the far left as hard as they can, so much that they are essentially the center. But there is no center. If you are considered left, you're considered like super left. And like no one can see it from where they sit. So they either sit there and they go, well, I wish there was a world where a woman could like stay home. And you're like, yeah, anywhere you don't want to work, you don't have to. I don't know what you think is happening on the left that like we're making you be a CEO, but you don't have to be.
I'm trying and I can't be. I can't do what Elena Tabur will do. I'm kind of like a VP. That's a she vice president.
Yeah. You are a she VP.
That's the problem with our company. We're two she-VPs with no CEO.
And they won't make us be one.
No, they can't. And then you know what? It's a tax problem, but we're plowing along.
Oh, 'tis the season. 'Tis the season to be in trouble. But anyway, the thing is, there are like these women are talking about how they were just like looking for a political home, and the only one they could find that they felt like suited their sensibilities was like lightly to the right, when that isn't true at all. Like, there is no reason that you have to team up with like right-wing people because they will placate to the furthest right. Whereas like on the left, we can't get them to listen to even like lightly left. They're sitting there being like, please, for the love of God, we won't make a law. We won't do anything. Can't we all just hang out and like only sometimes go to war?
No, they always want to go to war. They love it.
But anyway, it's very interesting to watch. I think these women thought that if they like ate the rest of the women's rights, they'd get to keep theirs. And that's not true. So, yay, we all get to learn a lesson together.
And Ashley, should we do our caps off?
Yeah.
So I found a caps off that really got me excited. It's a comment actually from none other than Cruz Beckham. Cruz Beckham has an older girlfriend. That's kind of the theme of the podcast. She's like 10 or 12 years older. And he was doing a TikTok where he was making his girlfriend a Nutella crepe because I guess he's so jealous of Brooklyn. I will say Brooklyn's already a chef. You can't have two chefs in a family.
Well, Brooklyn's not in the family.
That's so true. Maybe he's like, finally, I get to do it now. Anyway, he was making this Nutella crepe for his older girlfriend, and somebody came and tried to snub him by saying, I love when a man cooks for his mom. To which Cruz got her ass right back and said, you think Victoria Beckham is eating a Nutella crepe? Crying laugh face. No chance, Daily. Daily is the name of the commenter. I love that he's using his mother's eating disorder to clap back at the haters.
And he's dead right. You think VB is eating a Nutella crepe?
I don't even think the girlfriend he made the crepe for is eating the crepe. It's an activity much like you would play with sand if you were a baby.
When you make a gingerbread house.
Yes.
Are you eating the gingerbread house?
Does anyone here have that friend who's always like into making the nastiest fucking... She's like, oh, what if we made a pool of icing and then you take little graham crackers and you put little sugar bathing suits on them and then you dip the sugar bathing suit graham cracker into the pool of icing and you're like, cool, so we've all had 4 now and now we have like 7 tubs of icing in a pool.
Exactly.
You know that friend who's always making the nastiest shit and now you just have like gunk in a tub?
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, good luck washing. And you're like, okay, I'm about to throw out 7 pounds of sugar into a garbage can and then I guess wash the rest.
You know, it happens, but not to VB.
No, just like, don't make that for me.
You say, what are you kidding? Get Kendall Jenner over here to cut up a cuke.
Anyway, caps off. Caps off, Cruz. I feel he didn't know the rule, which is that you're supposed to pretend she's like eating normal amounts.
Can I say, I respect that he's not following the rules. We know Victoria Beckham is not eating normal amounts, and why would anyone act like that? That's insulting. I wonder if she's pissed off. I wonder if she goes, absolutely, accuse me of having an eating disorder, but don't act like I'm about to eat a crepe.
One of my vividest memories is in 5th grade, this girl telling me that Victoria Beckham had a disease that made her really skinny with really big boobs. And I remember going, I'm pretty sure that's a boob job. And she goes, no. And she started crying. And she goes, she has a disease.
Oh my God, I can't believe you went
to her boobs so hard and big and her body so little.
You knew Yolanda Hadid?
I remember her crying and being like, is she right? She seems so like intense about this. All right, caps off. Good night.
And good noticings.